Welcome to day one of the Rhythmic Radicals podcast. Today, I have my guest with me, my longtime bro and friend, Justin Copes, aka Basic J88.
Yes, sir.
And yeah, we're just gonna get started. The concept that we're really digging into today, and what we're going to be doing from now on, with this particular podcast, is talking about music, and how it impacts us in radical ways in society and life and love, in marriage and family, and just even biblically. So that's part of what we're going to do and sharing today specifically. So I know you were saying you had a couple of questions for me, as far
Yes,
as
sir.
like why I was starting things this way and all that type of stuff. So
Definitely. So, just in general, I mean, he already basically told you who I was. I'm Justin Copes, and handle is Basic J88 on Instagram. But we're gonna dig right in. So, some of the pertinent questions that I had, as far as for the platform in general, and what is Rhythmic Radicals, and who are you trying to reach, and also just what's your drive to do it. You know what I mean?
yeah, for me, first of all, I'm Dominique Campbell.
The one and only.
No, no. So the purpose of starting Rhythmic Radicals was to kind of give exposure, first of all, to like new gifts in the earth that people might not be exposed to. Granted, like we have like a billion different things that we can look at via the internet.
Right.
So my focus was to try to talk about like rhythm in other ways outside of the concept of what we think about. Normally, rhythm is prescribed or automatically assumed to be having a conversation about drums. But for me, it's like thinking about drums from the origination of like tribal aspects of drums, how drums affected us culturally, like even during times of war. Like in the military, they used to have us march like beforehand.
Yeah.
So when you talk about marching snares and stuff,
Like a
we always
preparation.
think about drumline, the movie with Nick Cannon.
Right.
The connotation of a drumline originally, like centuries before, had to do with having to do with introductory phases of the military being getting ready to go into battle. So for me, it was more so trying to build a culture around understanding history of music. Also, like explaining things for the next generation to be able to lean on and be a bridge between them and give homage to some of the older guys, and some of the influences I had as an earlier child. So whether, like I said, whether it was biblically or whether it was like from drummerworld.com,
Right.
which was before YouTube existed.
Right.
So when I was young and in high school, it was Drummer World was like the big deal. If you made Drummer World's website, that was like making front page of Modern Drummer.
Yeah.
But it also gave me a gateway to understand the history of music. So I was able to understand Will Kennedy, Billy Cobham, Vinnie Colaiuta, Dave Weckl, Steve Gadd. Like otherwise, I would not have had the exposure to or Tony Williams or Art Blakely or Blakey or different genres, right?
Yeah.
Outside of like Calvin Rogers and all these other cats who I knew in church, but I didn't know. I didn't know as far as like the world of music as large.
Right.
So for me, it's trying to create a podcast that pays homage to different styles of music, different genres, why certain people do things well, why other people may not, and then also trying to give like like building a brand around us all being one.
Right.
Versus a brand that all separates us from being who we are anyway. Because at the end of the day, music is a universal language. But it's like, I don't feel like we have a lot of universal brands.
A lot of unity.
That build unity into the fabric of what they're trying to do. So, yeah, that's why I started Rhythmic Radicals, man. I just wanted to put something together for everybody who does anything musically to understand that rhythm is the foundation of music, number one. But also to think about it in radical concepts and radical ways to create an impact to like further a generation along musically.
Right.
So, yeah, that was it.
Man, in a nutshell, you answered that in more ways than I think I could even ask the right questions. But that's funny you say that, because when you speak of the aspect of how they used to use the drums to go into war. If
Right.
you think about it, even with spiritual warfare, when we playing at church or whatever
Right.
atmosphere or whatever genre you may be playing in, the drums is like one of the most focal points of, like, if you can hear the pattern, the drums and bass or whatever case are kind of synonymous.
Yep.
But in an aspect of having the drums in general keeping the rhythm, it kind of brings you into where you're gonna be. If you got somebody playing samba, or you got somebody playing fusion, or you got somebody playing gospel, like
Right.
you can almost tell where it's about to go, or
Yep.
just like the feeling of what's about to happen.
Absolutely.
Right? I don't know
Absolutely.
what they had on the battlefield. I'm sure it was just a snare, and it was just
Right,
like,
right,
hype
right.
people up.
Or they would have some drum or something.
Same goes for church, though.
right.
You're setting the atmosphere for a spiritual warfare.
Yep,
When the preacher comes up, or whoever's going to edify the people, it's like the musicians in general, but the drummer for specific reasons just kind of has a different. He's like holding the steak and potatoes. He's like creating that atmosphere. Like, man, the build up, the crescendos, everything that goes with that is setting the atmosphere for what's about to come. And I know it interlinks in totality with the whole band, but in general, it's just like that's a specific instrument that's just setting the atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
rhythmic radical is kind of like,
Yeah, I mean, like
Personifies
for
that.
example, like when you look at the scripture, which is very popular, where Jehoshaphat sends out the army first, right? The instruction is to essentially to send Judah first, which was basically the tribe who was specifically designed for managing, manufacturing, and creating systems for praise
right,
throughout the different 12 tribes that existed in Israel. So their main emphasis, which was different from Issachar, right? Because Issachar was the tribe that was able to tell the times and the seasons that was going on. Well, Judah had a different specificity where they basically, in that particular battle, they said send them first, and then after they get done, we're going to be ready to fight. But what's interesting is after they send them, it says that the volume of obedience that they was able to exhibit through music and following God's instruction
volume of obedience.
that's the way I could that's the best way I can describe it musically.
Good
Like
interpretation.
is it caused confusion for their enemies to the point to where the only fight that they actually had to do was trying to figure out how to get the spoils from their enemies, basically killing themselves off. And it was like, I believe it was 3 different armies who had come together to fight Israel in that particular battle and instance, and they basically were able to pick up all the spoils. I think it said it took them 3 days to pick up all of the stuff that they had to get. So it's kind of this connotation where in that instance, that's a rhythmic radical. Like,
Right.
Or you got the instance of David, right? Where David is sent to Saul's house before he ever fights Goliath, after he's anointed by Samuel. And he has to go into his house to play the harp. Well, or it was like a smaller version of the harp. But when he goes in there, it says that he's able to play the evil spirit off of Saul. Well, for me,
evil spirit off of
yeah. So the evil spirit from Saul disobeying God's original instruction,
right,
to kill, I believe, is Agag, who he was supposed to kill. And he decided not to, trying to basically show him sympathy and give him some empathy or whatever. And David ends up being anointed to take his place. Well, one of the byproducts of him being anointed was he was not just a warrior,
right,
but he also was a man who was very familiar with rhythm and writing songs. So when you put kind of a marriage between the two, in my mind, that's exactly what a rhythmic radical is. Is you're leveraging music that you have to bring a level of liberation, but also social reform, to where now you're being invited into a king's palace to play like you would normally do for the audience of one, God, to now liberate him from a spirit that's either depressing him, attacking him, making him have nightmares, that's basically not making him feel or put in a state of normalcy or regularity.
right.
And so when you have that conversation, you also can have a conversation regarding the fact of frequency, right?
Right.
Because there are certain frequencies and certain tones, even that's played over the airwaves, that affects us neurologically as a society. So, and this is kind of an abstract stretch in this sense, but I think some of the ways in which music is built and designed and pushed over the airwaves now is not sustainable for our mental health.
Yeah, that's true.
Right? So the lyrical content is one aspect. The change of frequency, because it used to be on a lower frequency, I believe in like the 80s, they changed it around the 90s if I'm not mistaken. And now this higher tone and not to pick at a genre, but to help you understand lyrically, we don't have the level of content that we had before, because that's not the emphasis no more. Now we call it conscious rap. Now it's like a whole separate genre, whereas before everybody was trying to do the same thing, right? But it's also just in general, like talking about different aspects of how rhythm affects us even psychologically. So when you were talking about like setting an environment, it's a different style for everything you trying to produce.
Yeah.
When you trying to spend time with your lady, you don't want to hear all that.
Right.
You trying to hear some little acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
You trying to hear something that's gonna be laid back, that's gonna be smooth. But you don't want to hear like that ain't the time for warfare music.
Yeah.
Right?
Gotcha.
But at the same time, if it is time for war, like rhythm is always included.
Yeah.
And so it's yeah, bro.
It's crazy you say that because going back to one of the other points that you mentioned, which you said a lot, but everything is pertinent.
Yeah.
With the aspect of, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the devil was actually like the lead musician.
Oh yeah.
Or Lucifer was the lead musician before he got cast down, right?
Yep.
So music is always synonymous with what the starting point is for whatever is about to happen. Like
if
you go to the movies, you hear the cinematic music, and it's like you can hear the build up before something's about to happen.
Right.
It's funny because one of the things I pay attention to when I go to see a movie, whatever the case, or see a play, whatever the case may be. Anytime you hear water, somebody's about to die, or you hear like music. You get what I'm saying? Like it sounds kind of corny. Whatever the case, Jaws, whatever.
Right.
Anytime you see it's stuff that's synonymous with certain scenes, or something that's about to happen, or something that's about to just pop off. Right. They always have some type of build up musically. You hear strings, drums. You hear something coming to where it's like, all right, you're playing this for a reason, which means something's about to shift atmospherically, whatever the case may be. Whether it be something detrimental, it may be a heartwarming situation, whatever the case may be, but it's always some type of musical cue to when something's about to pop off. Right. It's funny that you say that because it's always the precursor to whatever it is. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I think it's even interesting because like at one point I went to Expression College for Digital Arts in Emeryville, right? So our first 14-week project that we had the opportunity to put together like and write and direct, do the cinematography for, and also do the film scoring for our own like creative movie that we were going to do, like a short film. So our film was like, I think it was supposed to be 7 minutes. I'm not even sure if it's still on YouTube, but it was called ours that we picked was a horror genre. Okay. Which is fun for me because I like, like crazy stuff like that. Right. Like Saw is one of my favorite like series of movies, just because the level of creativity that you had to have is seen in so many ways. Like even though the outcome of it is kind of disgusting to look at, but the level of creativity you had to have was astronomical. Like it was crazy. But yeah, like so we got to do that the movie was called Francis de Luc. And so it was about this old it was kind of like one of those I Know What You Did Last Summer type movies where it was some old summer, like this crew got together, they hanging out at the house and they want to go to like the grave site of Francis de Luc to see if this actual spirit is real and all this stuff, right? Now granted we was having fun, but like it gave me the understanding and the concept of like, what are movies without music? Yeah. Right? Like you're looking at the frames, and the frames, hearing the voices and listening to the scenes, it felt empty because you're building it from the ground up. So now you like, I need to add this little something so you can kind of assume a shift coming from whether it's light and fluffy or it's like gory or somebody about to die or so the story it was real, like it was heavy. It was a heavy rhythmic pattern to it, but it sounded real distorted or chaotic or whatever. And then you knew what to get ready to change the scenes to. based on what you were listening to. And I feel like honestly, like that's a lot of our lives. Like we the music that's being played to the track of our lives rather.
True.
Sometimes it feel like you listening to something, you like, man, can we change the song, bro? Like I don't want to keep listening to this. I'm tired. Like, but music is always a part. Like if you having a bad day, it's you playing something uplifting. You don't want to hear all of the, or if you ready to hurt somebody, you gonna put on. But that's what I'm saying. So it's not only a universal language in that sense, but I also feel like it's actually a liberator, and it gives suggestion to us as well. It influences us in a lot of ways. So yeah,
that's crazy because with all that being said, like I said, music is the precursor, or from what's being talked about in general, music is the precursor to whatever is about to happen. Like I said, if you go to a movie and you're watching a movie with no cinematic music, it's just like, all right, it may be a good plot, it could be a great movie. Just like with Black Panther, for instance, the movie that just came out a couple years back. Like, bro, the music on there, it wasn't the traditional norm of what action movies had. First off, it was African American cast with different, so it brought a different vibe and a different feel. African American, kind of Pan African kind of vibes, whatever the case may be. So it brought a different, like that song. What's the one Kendrick Lamar did? That's basically like the theme song for Black Panther. I can't remember the name of it. Oh my god, I can hear it now. Yeah, and it's rhythmic.
It's very.
It's kind of like a rhythmic, radical kind of like, it's a different approach, like hip hop, but with synonymous with African drums and this and that. And then the visage that they put for that video, the video they actually shot for it, it just was like, bro, it created that atmosphere.
Yeah, it was the perfect marriage.
Exactly, it was a perfect marriage. It created the atmosphere. It made you feel like you were somewhere you had never been because of the precursor, which was the music. Then everything else was kind of synonymous by falling in line with the visage, everything that came with that. But it's just funny how you say. It's kind of like it is what it is. The music is the precursor to everything. So the whole rhythmic radical theme makes sense.
Yeah, for sure, bro. Like, and I even think it's cool and it's dope because if you really think about it, if Kendrick would not have had a sound, right,
yeah,
prior to Ryan Coogler wanting to
utilize it,
or even come up with the concept for Black Panther, having the opportunity being given, I think it was more so because Kendrick already had produced something. Yeah. Because he produced something, it gave a theme as a precursor to Black Panther musically. So then conceptually now I can do the font to match the music. I know that because I'm going to be doing stuff with an African theme, I have to include African themed music, which already pre-existed creativity. Right. So for me, it's like if you don't shine your light in whatever way that is musically, so you can be authentic to yourself, like you can predetermine things around the world just by you being yourself. You feel what I'm saying? Like, there were certain songs that we heard, like, like "We Are the World, We Are the People." Right. That was during a time where it was a big racial divide. Yep. So, like, to have songs like that build that bridge or bring people together. Right. Or like Bob Marley had that same impact where he was, right? So it's the same concept where music, like I said, it influences us in ways like biblically, spiritually, politically, like in all genres and all aspects. If you can convey the message musically that gets people to feel liberated and unified, you can have a major impact.
That's one thing I always tell myself is that, or I've always thought of music. Music is the great influencer. Right. Whether you want it to be something that's influence people to do good, you can influence people to do bad, you can influence people to be courageous, you can influence people to be crazy. But whatever you put out, whatever energy you put out through your music, radically or rhythmically, however you want to put it, whatever title you want to put on it, it's an influencer one way or another, whether you know it or not. Because it's the, like you said before, when we first started, it's the universal language to everything that goes forward. Right. Every church has a musician. Right. Has a band. Every you go to a concert to hear the music. Right. To hear the words, you may know the song already, but you want to hear the experience that comes from having the live music.
Absolutely.
So it's so many different things that run in with that, but yeah, bro, Rhythmic Radicals for sure.
Yeah, it's bro. I feel like it's definitely going to changed the game in a lot of ways, and not just because, like, of course, my automatic MO waking up in the morning is what can I do to change the world in a greater way, but more so like, I think it'll bring up and allow people to have conversations regarding social reform in that sense.
That's how
through music, you know what I'm saying? Like, and how do we manifest this during our time period? Because we see it in certain individuals, but like even myself, it's like, what if I, during the period where I want to come out with an album, like what am I going to say that'll bring change, that'll bring positivity, that'll bring influence for people to think about life in a different way that make people want to live.
Right.
I mean, you got so many cats like taking their lives now, bro. It's like ridiculous. Yeah. And it's like, is it something that I could say or play that has the ability to do what David did for Saul, and like be able to get this evil spirit off of people, and bring them to a place of calm and consistency and solidarity in that sense, like in their spirit, man. You know what I mean? So, but I think that's one reason why I'm so eclectic in my ear.
Right.
Like I don't have this, I'm not biased at all. Like I'm very like open and willing to hear other things, and from other people that might not be, on somebody else's radar. Like every time you get in my car, you like, who is this?
Exactly.
All the time. Cause I'm always searching for something new. And I think one of my hungers and thirsts in listening to music is trying to find what I hear in my head. Yeah. And I still don't. Yeah. So for me, I know I'm going to have to do an album because I'm like, it's no way, like,
because there's no way that you can express
nobody is quantifying the expression of what I want to say yet. So since they haven't done it yet, and I've been on this earth 31 years, I need to do this. Right. So that's been kind of one of my internal toils, like to get it done. So, but yeah, you reached you listened to the first episode of Rhythmic Radicals. And stay tuned. We got another one coming for y'all.
Stay radical. Sheesh.